Yep. Yeah, rule of 72. We should be finished in shortly. So yesterday we talked about compound interest and how it was different from simple interest. And we did some questions where we were asked to calculate the interest that you earned at different interest rates and if it was compounded differently. And sorry, here we go. There is one rule that we use with compound interest. It's an interesting rule. It just works mathematically. If you want to know how long it takes to approximately double your money when you invest something, we can have a formula where the rate of interest that you invested at and the time that you invested for in years, if you multiply those two together, it will equal 72. At that interest rate and that time, if they multiply together to get 72, T will tell you how long it takes for your investment to double. So R is the interest rate, and we don't change it to decimal. We leave it as a percent when we're doing the rule of 72. And T is the time in years. So just as an example, Ernest invests $4,000 at an interest rate of 6% compounded annually. Using that rule of 72, how many years will it take Ernest's investment to double? There should be a question mark here. Well, the interest rate times the time for it to double must equal 72. We know the interest rate is 6, so 6 times the time must be 72. And then we figure out T from there. 6 times T is 72. T will equal 72 divided by 6, which will give us 12 years. So if the interest rate was 6%, it would take 12 years for his investment to double. That's all we use this for. We use this in special. It's just a rough idea to see what happens to your investment. That's all. If you want to know exactly how much you're going to make, that's when you use the compound interest formula. Okay. So that really covers everything about interest. Okay, and we talked a lot about interest in these first two lessons if we were investing some money in a financial institution. Interest is also used when we're borrowing money. The rest of this unit, we're going to focus on credit. What credit is, the different types of credit, how interest is calculated in certain types of credit, like say with credit cards. Some interesting types of credit, like I don't know if you guys have ever heard, like furniture places do this a lot, that if you buy a furniture set, you don't have to pay for 1 year. And then at the end of 1 year, then you have to pay after that. Or if you don't pay after that, you have to pay interest. It's a way to sort of get you to try and buy it on credit. Okay, but we'll talk about that in more detail later. Last thing I wanted to talk about is just because we were mainly talking about investment, when we were looking at interest. This is just sort of for your information. There's really two types of investments that you can make. And depending on what's happening in the economy, one type of investment is better than the other. So back in 2007, the world was in a recession, okay? And the recession just means where unemployment rises and the values of goods produced by a government decreases. So whatever they manufacture, they can't sell for as much as they normally can. So basically the economy gets worse. And that can affect investments. There are high risk investments. High risk investments give you a high interest rate, but they're very volatile. They can be subject, they could crash much easier than low risk investments. Examples would be if you play the stock market or if you invest in real estate, okay? They can give you lots of money. They can generate lots of interest when the economy's good, but when the economy's not good, they go down significantly and you could lose a lot of money. So it's high risk, you know, there's a potential big payoff, but there's a potential loss too. Yeah.
But I have very small shares because they are high risk investments. Are they always high risk because?
Yeah, because the stock market fluctuates with the economy, right? So it goes up and down, but that also depends on like how spread out is your portfolio. Like if you've invested whatever you have in stock, if you just like invested a bunch of money in one company, that's pretty high risk. If you invested your money, smaller amounts in different companies, that would be a lower risk because you're spreading your risk out a little bit. It would still change if the economy went bad because stock market prices can change quickly, okay? And the other one is low risk investments. That's when you open up a savings account in your bank, okay? Because the government secures that money for you. The government will protect that money for you. But the problem with low risk investments, you don't make a lot of money on them. And I told you guys yesterday about the savings account at Cambrian Credit Union, how if you invested money for 5 years, you'd get 5%, which is okay, but it's pretty low. Stock market and real estate, you could be making interest as much as like 30%. So you can get big gains, but big losses as well. So that's just sort of a quick commentary on two different types of investments. Okay. And then just at the bottom here, if you're interested in having a conversation with a parent or an adult who has invested, these may be some questions you want to ask them. You know, if they've invested before, did they invest in high risk or low risk? Was it beneficial? This is what financial advisors do. Sure. Like, these are the jobs financial advisors do. They try and help you grow your money as best as possible. Okay. But that all depends. So they need to know what the market is like. If they don't know what the market is like, you could end up losing a lot of money. You need a very knowledgeable financial advisor, right? Someone who knows what they're doing, who knows the history of stocks and things like that, okay, who knows trends. And I mean, sometimes you may even switch your strategy. I have a pension with BH, and that money's invested, and I can decide how much of a risk do I want to take on the investment. There can be some, I can do what's called a balanced investment, which means that it's invested in pretty safe stuff, which means I'm not going to get a lot of interest. I could move to a growth strategy, which means I'm going to invest in more riskier things. which could result in a good payoff, but it could result in a significant loss. I mean, that's just, this is a very simple way to talk about investments, but it's good to have sort of that background. Okay. And now